these human operators, I would assume that this is, these are people that have previous harvesting experience. So these are people that are already, I guess, hired by the farmer, or these people that are disconnected from the farm themselves. Is it part of your team, or is it part of the farmer's team?
It varies, and I would
Mm.
say one of our core kind of design philosophies has always been to uh, not make it's just been to conform to as many conventions as we can to minimize the friction on the business side and
Mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm.
technical side. And so in some cases what that is it's us training a grower's workforce on how to use the equipment, which allows for sort of better integration with their daily operations.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases it's a little bit of leading them to water by showing them how we would operate the equipment,
Okay.
and it's a longer process. I would say one thing that we're particularly excited about is the ability to give workers that are involved in the harvest operation, farming operation today, sort of some better career prospects. And one example that we always look to is in our previous company, Green Botics, when we were doing uh, autonomous cleaning of solar panels out in the desert. And I have to say, outside of strawberry harvesting, that's probably the worst work I've ever seen.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
it's wet. It's
Yeah.
it's a big broom. You have a broom and a power washer, and you're like scrubbing the panels, and it's
Right.
literally millions of panels, right? And so it's really tough conditions. And what we saw with integrating robots into that industry was we actually elevated an entire workforce of people
Mm.
who were familiar with this work and the challenges that it presented. And so they offered something skill wise, right? But they also were able to acquire a new set of skills in robotic solar panel cleaning operation and became technicians. And so we actually created this entirely new class of worker that didn't exist before. And I think we're seeing something similar with the strawberry harvest. And we're trying really hard to work with our growers to kind of make that opportunity clear to the
Mm.
people involved on the ranch, because I think that it helps with integration, and it also sort of helps the acceleration of the tech to be adopted if you have more people who are trained on the equipment.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. Yeah, that was exactly the kind of answer I was looking for.
Mm,
One of, again, the trends that keeps coming up on the podcast is that, yeah, automation or autonomous systems are typically seen as something that replaces jobs, right? Completely eliminates the human
yeah,
worker. But more and more, it seems to be that. I mean, that can be done to a limited extent, but then there's the opportunity for workers, previous employees, to be kind of upskilled, right, or gain some new skills. In the kind of new work activities that are being done by the autonomous system.
totally.
You were also saying that there's like kind of one operator between five different tractors.
Yep.
Is that something that you're looking to change over the next, say, 5-10 years, where there would be kind of one operator between, I don't know, 10, 100 different machines in the future, or is that something that you're okay with right now?
I do think that over time, what we're really excited about is to get to the point where, the tech is consistently reliable and performance enough that we can hand it over to growers who will
Mm-hmm.
do things with it that we could never imagine, right?
Right, right.
And I think what you're saying are some examples of that. But it really requires sort of transformational thinking, and often that happens with growers once they have the tools and they're sort of looking at their own. They're taking their own decades of experience and saying, okay, now what can I do with these things? So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely see that as the kind of the end state, but I'm not sure that we're going to be the ones to get it there. I think it'll actually be some really forward-thinking grower partners who want an advantage over their peers who are trying to find all kinds of ways to use the equipment.
Right, right. Yeah, innovation within the growers themselves. I guess typically most people wouldn't think that farmers, for instance, as a general category, aren't innovative, but I think the opposite is quite usually true, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I think it's not for everyone. There's no
mhm.
question about that. Some people would rather see their neighbor using it before they use it. But I think
Yep.
for us, that helps too, because it allows us to sort of filter and find the right partners, right? People who are willing to take risks, calculated and measured risks, but risks to advance their operation and sort of they, and become the next sort of generational leaders in farming.
Hmm.
So certainly, I'd say every grower has their secret sauce, and in some cases, it's trying to find new tech that they can integrate, and in some cases, it's something totally different. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been fun to watch our partners kind of push us in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. Maybe the kind of last question
Mhm.
on this topic. So I also do work on the side apart from the podcast, which deals with smaller organizations kind of introducing robots into manufacturing processes.
Mhm.
And one of the things that keeps coming up is the employees, like the people that are on
Mhm.
the ground, the actual operators, might be a little bit hesitant to bring in a robot because their fears are typically connected to, well, this robot's going to come and take away my job. Is that
Yeah.
also something that you have gotten kind of a sense for on the ground with some of the harvesters that you're working with?
I mean, it's certainly something that we have to address head on, right? And I think
Hmm.
that's another area where we can work really closely with our growers to message, this is what you're seeing. I mean, it's sort of like, training with any new piece of equipment, right? Or new thing that you see on the ranch. This is what we're working on. This is why.
Hmm. Hmm.
This is how you can be a part of it. And what's really interesting is I think if you yeah, as we have learned to sort of frame the conversation the right way, we've actually gotten really good feedback from workers
Yeah.
that we've taken into account both with respect to our operations or food safety or even tech development, like time and motion of how a worker picks a berry, right, or how they sort a berry or think about how to pack a
Mm-hmm.
clamshell. All those are insights that we shouldn't learn on our own, right? We should really look for guidance there. Um, so that maybe that's one thing I'd say, and the other thing is it's surprising that um, I don't get beat up a lot about reducing costs significantly.
Hmm.
What we really see is that uh, there isn't a big enough labor force to do this
Yeah.
work today,
Yeah.
and so it's sort of like um, uh, I don't think workers feel particularly threatened. I think it's that growers need more support on the ground for people to do this work,
Hmm.
or robots to do this work.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's kind of the first order is let's bridge the gap, help our growers do the task, and then over time we'll find ways to reduce the cost or improve performance.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, maybe connected to that then, kind of what's the speed of the tractors themselves? Like if you have a group of, I don't know what the equivalent is, it like 10 harvesters versus one tractor, is that kind of the speed that we're talking about, or do you have even
I
numbers on
see.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, I see. So maybe the best way to describe it. So right now, as we talked about for strawberry harvest, it's all done by hand,
Yeah.
right? So there's no machine equivalent to sort of compare it to. But our let's say our target and what we're seeing in the right conditions is that we can reduce the harvest labor headcount by 60%.
Okay.
So it's a
Okay.
it's a pretty meaningful number.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's quite significant, and especially if, as you mentioned already a couple times, there is this like large labor shortage. I think that's something that'll be more beneficial than it is kind of scary or negative for the growers and for the harvesters themselves going forward.
Right.